microphone or one of the big microphones. So if you're like, oh, it sounds different. Well, that's why. Ladies and dribbles, thanks very much for joining us. In a second here, I'm going to hand it off to D. Looks like go for it, buddy.
That's, by the way, that's what she said, whipping out the big microphone. This show is for educational and entertainment purposes only. You have to be 21 and over to be here. If not, you have to get out. That means you in the back. I see you. Ootensy!
That's it.
Ootensy!
Out
Cheers,
in the
everybody.
bitte. That's it.
Bacon.
Ladies and geraniums. Oh, I just had to switch my thingy. Hold on a second. I'm going to mute myself.
Yet again, that's what she said. Don't forget
There we
Top Chef
go.
Live Chat.
Thank you, D. In fact, I'm just about to do that myself. Folks, switch to live chat for a superior, in our opinion, superior chatting experience. Perhaps you prefer the top chat, but of course, perhaps you prefer boof. That could happen too. If you don't like boof, switch to live chat. If you like high grade everything, ladies and gentlemen, switch to live chat. It's the high grade. It's the top shelf chat of this
Like
experience right
me.
here. That's it. Exactly right, D. Anyway, welcome, folks. Let me get everything situated because I haven't actually used this computer for what? Used the computer for Zoom for a little bit. Cheers, everyone in the chat. Crime Wars is first in the chat. Good to see you, buddy. Al Telescope Uranus is right behind him. He says, hey, hey, Fumidor. Hey, hey, back to you, Al Telescope Uranus with the best name. Nathaniel Chambers says, shit, second, actually third. So
Fuck.
even worse. Not going for it. Today's not going well for you today. I'm joking. I'm obviously joking. Miranda Family Farms, good to see you as well. Who else in here? Patricia Walkers. Look at that. All the favorites are in here. Welcome, folks. Good to see you. I'm going to post the link here. If you guys ask nicely, you are welcome to join us. The door is semi-closed, basically. So long story short, just ask nicely if you'd like to come on here and talk about your garden or show off or ask a question, for example. We usually have quite a few
Gotta step away and be right back.
oh, right on. We usually have quite a few well-versed growers on the show, breeders, on and on. Sometimes some very experienced breeders hop on here. So, folks, feel free to hop on and ask a question, but please do ask nicely. First off, if we see basically what that means is if I see like a random name basically popping into the Zoom window, I probably just won't admit them essentially, or I'll ask, in the chat or something. So, anyway, trying to just kind of not shut it down, but basically tighten it up a little bit. I don't know, kind of like your mama likes it. Anyway, the Altel Scorpionus is exactly the Booftron. Exactly right. Is that the TV at the Boof Games, the Boof Olympics, the Booftron? Anyway, they show people smoking boof in the audience. That'd be pretty funny. Anyway, folks, don't forget, of course, to visit my website. This show is not just basically for nothing. It doesn't advertise my website very well, but it's supposed to advertise my website. So please do go check out fumidoro.com, ladies and gentlemen, fumidoro.com. You can also type fumesofgold.com. I think fumidoroseedco.com. I renewed the website the other day, a few others as well. I think actually chronictable.com redirects to Fumidoro. Anyway, long story short, check out fumidoro.com. I would very much recommend Sour Morgana. That's one of my absolute favorites right now. I think you will absolutely really enjoy it. Really looking forward to what is going to happen with this new Jack the Ripper male with that line. But anyway, Sour Morgana is something I would really wholeheartedly recommend. Being a dumbass, I still haven't put Lime Rivero's version 2 up on the website, but I would very much recommend that. Morgana version 2 is on the website. I would very much recommend that as well. I'd like to think of it as a new and improved Morgana, basically. If, as many of you folks in the chat have grown Morgana, I think you'll really enjoy the Morgana V2. It's got that Black Prince Ruby Father in there. Anyway, if you would like a even newer, improved version, try Black Soma Morgana. Not enough people have grown that one yet. That is my cherry black Morgana, basically a Morgana that I've talked about, but not enough for years now. She's the sister to the sour Morgana that I talk about all the time. Excuse me. Basically same family of kind of cherry smell, and that sort of cherry family of Morgana, but a little bit more like a campfire smokiness, basically. Honestly, a little bit more kind of a gassy Morgana, but this gas is sort of more of a like a smokiness. Really a very interesting and compelling aroma. I need to grow it more, honestly. Anyway, ironically, I was going to put it outside, and I just don't have space for it. I have a couple other plants that I'm putting out. I'm like, fuck. Anyway, regardless. But the Black Soma Morgana is that cherry black Morgana crossed to the Coot Special number three. So far, the Coot Special number three male has been actually a very dominant male, which I guess in long-term breeding would not be a good thing, but for this round has actually been a really nice feature because I wanted to bring a lot of that wild South Asian sativa. Basically, it's a Thai and South Indian Kerala combo. Super heavy on the lemon, pine, earthy cleaners. Sometimes you get these kind of fermented aromas and stuff. Anyway, really pungent, honestly, and a really spectacular high so far. So I'm really enjoying every one of the combos. I've grown the Surf Grape, I've grown the Pacifica Days version one. A few of the Pacifica Days version ones. That was my first joint of the day today. It was delightful, honestly. That one actually, the Oaxacan Thunderfuck does shine through. So the actually a nice combo, to be perfectly frank. The lemon pine cleaner basically of that Coot Special doesn't quite lift through that sort of sweaty saltiness of the Oaxacan Thunderfuck, and the Oaxacan, it seems to itself be basically more dominant on the Oaxacan side. It has a little bit of that fermented fruit basically for or fermented earthy fruit kind of from the Thunderfuck basically. But who's trying to join? Oh, Dee's trying to join again. Oh, I thought it was Dee this whole time. It was Captain that was sitting there with me. Hold on a second. I'll stop talking, Captain. What was I going to say?
Go right
The Oaxacan
ahead. This is
Thunderfuck in
your
that
show.
Pacifica Days. I really dig it. I really dig the Pacifica Days version one. Basically, is that Coot Special cross, and Pacifica Days version two still a tester. Basically, I haven't released it yet, but I've been growing a couple of them. I'm thrilled with what I see so far. So I think you guys are going to really enjoy the Pacifica Days version two. I think I don't know. I don't think anyone tests anymore, honestly. So I'm like, oh, should I even send out testers? I've wanted to send out
Yeah.
testers for the longest time. You think that I should send out testers, Captain?
Well, send one out to me at least. I'll pop them.
That's right. Send some to Captain. He'll test them. But what was I going to say? I still would like to test some of these lines. There's absolutely no earthly way that I'll be able to test all the lines that I basically have planned for the near future. Honestly, I barely have enough ability to test all the testers that I have. Essentially, I have several different testers from that Runts of Eden Coot Special kind of in cross that Samuel Olson put together. I have the Pacifica Days version two, a few other ones, Pine Soul to JTR, et cetera, et cetera. So it's problematic already, but I feel like I would like to get some of those at least tested. So I have to go back to California in the next little bit. I'm going to be down there, it looks like, for a
California.
couple of weeks. It's California. I probably could bring some of those seeds with me, so I probably could mail out some testers. So I don't know. If you guys have any thoughts, of course, everybody in the chat is welcome to sort of re-sign up as a tester. It's been such a kind of a clusterfuck of just weird shit happening in my life that's kind of conspired to not make it easy for me to send out testers and stuff, but I would very much like to still do that. So anyway, if you guys are listening to the show and sort of paying attention, would like to be a tester and so on, give me your thoughts, including the YouTube chat right there. Of course, email me fumidor@chronictable.com. That would be awesome.
Now,
Anyway, have
Fumidor,
some super interesting stuff. Go for it, Captain.
if you send me a nice selection of not all the strains, but like the one you said, and you allow me to grow that out, I'll even test it for hemp laden virus for you too.
That's cool.
Because everything that I have is getting tested. Running it through a
hmm,
full harvest from seed, and we're doing three tests.
hmm,
One towards the beginning, one right as we flip, and then one about a week before we harvest.
hmm,
And I'm going to be taking them from different parts of the plant, so I'm going to be spending a ton of money on testing.
hmm. No, that's fair. Hop latent viroid is an interesting one, honestly. It's basically the grower nightmare. And for the longest time, I was really quite terrified of it. Every once in a while, one of the many reasons why I didn't really take other people's clones is I didn't want to get russet mites again. I didn't want to get hop latent viroid, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Things that are difficult to get rid of in retrospect. Once I learned to get
Oh,
rid
yeah.
of russet mites, they're relatively easy. I've heard broad mites are a little problematic, so I definitely don't want to get those. They seem very similar, but apparently they have slightly different processes. So I hope I don't get those anytime fucking soon. Thankfully, they're not super common in my neighborhood, but that can change in a heartbeat. What was I going to say? Just the other day, they were talking about the Chinese lanternfly. It almost got imported to California, of all things, on a big art sculpture. It was a big bronze, yeah, like a big, like a 20, 30 foot tall bronze that they casted on the East Coast, and they transport them on a truck basically because the fucking thing weighs probably 10 tons or some shit, probably more than that, honestly, because it's fucking bronze, so it's probably a big old piece of metal. Anyway, it had a bunch of egg masses, they call them, from these Chinese lanternflies, and these Chinese lanternflies are not a fucking joke. Apparently, they just are catastrophic wherever they go. So anyway, your bug situation can change in a freaking heartbeat. But what was I talking about? I was talking about hop latent viroid. Oh, I think part of it has to do with grow methodology too, but I think to some degree it's been a little bit blown out of proportion. Now, when I say that, I have to qualify that pretty intensely because when you talk about big commercial grows, they're a pretty different animal, honestly. Even if you're a fairly big time grower, I don't know, some of the people on this show, we don't have to be specific, but you know probably who I'm talking about, who have a lot of clones and have a few different grows and stuff. I feel like they're at a significantly different risk for things like hop latent viroid than a 1,000 acre farm that has 100 employees or 200 employees. A lot of those guys are home growers. A lot of those guys are working on less than legal grows in the evening, let's say, and some of those less than legal grows may have some significant bug infestations because, of course, when you're cash cropping, the only point is money. They don't really care about anything else. So as long as you can limp to harvest, and I've seen even a couple of my friends basically have just limped to harvest and harvested and sold product with PM on it, with what else? With the aphids stuck to it, with spider mites, like kind of
Oh
turned my
man.
stomach. Nah, it turns my stomach, honestly. And I'm like, you want to ask the person what the fuck they're doing, but at the same time, what can you really say? Like on one hand, there's 1,000 times worse going on in the commercial markets. You hear it all the time. And second of all, like it's the dude's living, and I don't, you never know what to say. And in these particular cases, the people weren't used in Eagle 20 and stuff. It was just kind of gross. It wasn't harmful probably for anybody. They say that PM is not proven to be harmful for people. I don't enjoy smoking it. I've smoked it a few times. It's not enjoyable, honestly. I would imagine that it's probably not good for people with respiratory issues, but they say
No.
it's not actively harmful. Fuck do I know? Anyway, it's gross. At the very least, you can say it's fucking gross. Anyway,
I
go ahead, Kevin.
if I know I have PM, that all of that shit is going straight in the trash. I don't care what they say. It's not good for your body.
Mm.
If it's not
You
good
can
for the
remediate
plant,
it
it's not
in
good for you.
You can remediate it in certain ways, I suppose. I mean, you don't always have to trash everything. Even in restaurants, they don't trash everything, right? They'll use, fish places. They'll give you the seared tuna the second day. The fresh tuna is the one day, and the seared tuna or seared salmon is the second day. A lot of restaurants will do stuff like that. It doesn't necessarily mean that it's a bad experience because, every restaurant or every business has to make a living. So how do I put this? If you were to get a whole harvest, an outdoor harvest, for example, that's pretty common to get some PM on the outdoor harvest. Well, you could remediate it with solventless. Basically, the PM will wash right through the bags, and you could keep all the trichome heads. There's a lot of debate. I've heard quite a few people debate whether or not the actual PM spores get stuck to the trichome heads. I'd like to see some side to sides because I would be willing to bet. I have to be frank. This is probably the snob in me kind of coming out. I'd be willing to bet there is a difference between the PM coated trichome heads and the non-PM coated trichome heads. So realistically, in a perfect world, you'd be better off throwing everything away. But I mean, shit, we're not in a perfect world. If you're a medical grower growing for yourself, you can't really afford to throw away a whole year's harvest. So you have to, make use of it. But at the same time, that's not exactly the kind of weed that I'd maybe give out to friends, or something or maybe you would give it out to friends because you don't have very good friends or something. Although if that's the case, if you're giving out bad weed to friends, probably you're the bad friend as opposed to them. Although wait, you're giving out weed. Oh, I keep going back and forth on this. I can't decide. Anyway, what's going on,
Frenemy.
Captain?
I
We haven't.
can. I can. The trash.
There you go.
Yeah.
What's have we even introduced you guys? What's going on, D?
Hey,
No.
D.
What's going
Welcome.
on, everybody? It's a beautiful day here where I am. It's
Yeah, man.
91, I think it
Hmm.
is, with the heat.
Yeah.
And I am sporting my Shumidoro shirt from shumidoro.com.
Nice looking shirt.
Yeah. I'm here from
Sweet G.
Roy.
Yeah, man.
I hope everyone's having a great day. I'm smoking on different things. Blah, blah, blah.
Sweet.
Cheers, everybody.
Lime River Rose lives. I have some Lime River Rose seedlings in the tent behind me. So in a few months,
Nice.
we'll hopefully get some results from that. So we'll see. Obviously, no promises because you never know what comes out of a few seed packs. But based on experience, it looks like everything that people have grown from Lime River Rose they like. So I think I'm going to like it as well. So we'll see. I was going to pop a bunch of other seeds, but I thought I might just honestly wait until I come back because it's just so fraught basically to have, when you have caretakers basically take care of your garden, it's enough to not have them kill your garden, right? And then you add seedlings into the mix, it's just asking for trouble. So
Yep.
yeah, I think I'm just gonna wait. It would be nice if I had some nice like viable, seedlings that are transplantable basically when I came back, but what are you gonna do? It is what it
I had
is.
some.
Realistically, I'm probably going to have to move in the fall anyway, which is a good thing. Hopefully, I'm going to have my own place that I can set up to my heart's content and everything else. Again, it'll be nice. But it's been a heck of a process to get back there. So long story short, it probably is better that I wait until I get back to my new setup, but we'll see. Anyway,
Man,
cheers. Go ahead, Captain.
I I moved a truck out of the garage and my mom already started to claim that spot. I said, no, my truck's going to sit outside. I get a 4x8 tent.
That's funny. That's my space,
Yeah.
man. I claimed it. Shotgun. Who else in the chat here? Cheers, Big Turp. Good to see you, Big Turp. Miranda Family Farms. If I didn't say hello to you earlier, welcome, Miranda.
Miranda.
DGC Jeff's hanging with us. Good to see you, buddy. He's saying smoke, smoke, smoke if you got him. I'm paraphrasing slightly, but that's it. Everyone in the chat so far. Welcome, folks. Feel free to say hello in the chat. Say what you're growing on. We should have a poll. We've had a poll for a while. Let's see. Start a poll. What kind of poll do we want? What you growing this year? What you growing? Outdoors. I just misspelled that, but that's a funny misspelling, so I'm keeping it. Weed fam.
Your picture's almost close, though, to what I'm going to be growing.
These
And
nuts.
and the 20 or 30 crosses that we have of it already.
How did you get my nuts?
Oh, hardcore sold them to me.
Of course. Hardcore.
All right,
I'm
this poll may be somewhat tongue in cheek, but if you approach it scientifically, you never know, we might get good results. What you growing this year outdoors? The question is weed fam or weed, tomatoes, cucumbers, and shit. D's nuts or yo mama's big fat badonk. So I'm curious what the results will be. Please vote early and often, ladies and germs. El Telescopianus is saying 91 here in Chicagoland. Hella humidity. Found the Orange County Spy living in Chicagoland. People hate on Chicago food. I don't really know why. People hate on Chicago deep dish. They hate on Chicago hot dogs. I'm like, the fuck is wrong with you? Have you ever had Chicago deep dish? Like, if you don't think of it like a flat Brooklyn pie, then I don't think I think all the problems go away. I don't know. I don't know why people are so obsessed about it.
more
Like,
egg.
oh, I will only eat this other pie and throw everything in the garbage. I'm like, dude, it's literally like a deep dish pie filled with tomato sauce and cheese and I don't know, sausage and pepper, whatever the fuck they put in there. I'm not a Chicagoan. It's delicious. What the fuck? Same thing. Well, here's the thing. People don't give Detroit pie as much hate as they give Chicago pie, and arguably Detroit pie is similar to. Okay, it's not really a deep dish, but still, it's kind of that pan pizza. It's thicker. I would say it's more of a
Oh,
similar pie to the Chicago pie than it is to a Brooklyn pie. But I never hear people hating on Detroit pies. But for some reason, the Chicago deep dish. Oh my God, like time for civil war or some shit. What is wrong? Do people just hate Chicago or what is it?
they need to take their white ass back across the 8 Mile.
That's it. I think so.
Right.
I think that's what it is. When someone asks me pizza, I say yes. That's basically the end of the conversation. I don't need to qualify.
Yeah.
Oh, is it Neapolitan? Is it Sicilian? Is it no, it's pizza, dude. What do you want?
Pizza.
Like bad pizza is still better than
Nah.
good many other things. I don't know. Bad pizza is still better than a good war or something,
Liver.
right? What?
better than liver.
You know what's funny though? I've always not necessarily loved liver and onions, but like I'm okay with it. You know, it's
Mm.
one of those things that a lot of people are like, oh my fucking God, that would be the last meal I'd torture people with that
Oh,
meal. I'm like, it's fine, it's okay. And I'm not really a big fan of offal in general. Offal in terms of OFFAL, like guts and stuff. I don't like tripe and things like that, but I'm okay with liver. I don't understand it. I don't like
liver's
kidney or
delicious.
heart and shit like that, but liver's fine. It's
Oh
funny
my
how people are all
God.
different. What's that, D?
Liver's delicious. I love liver.
It's very polarizing. I guess that's that kind of earthy flavor that people don't really like. I really love this is a polarizing one. Do you like liver pate, like duck liver pate and shit like that? No?
Negatory. That's
Oh,
fucking
I like
gross.
that stuff. Yeah. What do you think the difference? So you like liver, but you don't like liver pate. What do you think the difference is?
Well, the difference is the farmers force feed the animals
Oh,
to
not
make their
foie gras.
liver.
I don't mean that. I mean like
Oh,
what am I trying to say? Yeah,
it's
liver
like a
pate,
normal.
like basically liverwurst
Oh, okay.
or shit like that or
I don't
um
know.
oh, okay. Right on. I'm quite a
Yeah,
fan,
yeah.
but it's very polarized. A lot of people don't like it. Most people really don't like it. Maybe it's too rich. I don't know. Anyway.
I think it makes it
Really easy
sick.
to make too. I made it a couple times in my life. It's so easy to make and it's fucking delicious when you make it yourself. It's incredible. Kind of a mess, but it's kind of
Meh,
delicious.
meh,
Cheers, bud. Good to see you.
meh, meh.
Jack Beanstalk's in the house. Welcome, Jack. As we let Bud get a sip of coffee, we'll check in on the poll. Only 7 votes so far, but the dominant choice so far is weed, tomatoes, cucumbers, and shit. I wonder what the percentage of shit is in that. These nuts is solidly represented as well. So nobody so far is growing, just weed fam. And not a single person is growing Yo Mama's big fat badonk. So maybe because it's already big, maybe they don't need to fertilize it anymore. I don't know. Anyway, what's going on with you, bud?
Uh, just getting over to my spot here. Gonna I got to spread out the clones and uh do a little work
Hmm.
in the day here. Other than that, moving slow today.
I guess I never finished talking about that a while ago. North Star was saying he might hop on today. Hopefully, we'll get a chance to talk to him. Maybe we can ask him the same question. How worried are you about hop latent viroid these days?
Not I've never had it. I don't know anybody that has. I take in clones and all that. I don't I've never seen it. So I think a lot of there seems to be like a campaign of fear or
Hmm.
scare tactics that like over the last year or so, like, oh yeah, 70% of everything has it, and oh, it's in all the sea. I don't know. I don't see that. Now it's out there, and it seems like commercial people are more at risk and have had catastrophic things happen. But like in my little like grow
Well,
homie network, no, it's definitely not like 70% of everything that has it. I've never even seen it.
A lot of times, from what I understand, it comes from shears, basically from scissors or cutting implements that basically are used to cut clones, cut tops, cut basically just trim plants essentially, and from one plant to another. Apparently, the first plant that has hop basically transfers it to the next plant, which I guess is logical. But basically, it's not like when it used to be the paranoia was the leaves could touch. And actually, I read a number of different stories said that, oh, when the leaves touch, you can pass the hop. But from what I understand, that's not actually true. It's really more from the actual fluids, I guess, the blood of the plant, so to speak, that gets transferred from one to another. Um, and how do I put this? Like, I don't even just thinking about how people do things. I'm curious how everybody different, sort of prunes their plants basically. But I rarely ever cut my plants. Basically, I'm usually trying to kind of train them and stuff like that. And cutting the top off a plant is wasteful because you basically just wasted however much time that the plant grew up that top, and then you're cutting that
Okay.
top off. You would have been better off just spreading the plant around or moving around somewhere. There's North Star right there. Fuck was I trying to say that? Yeah, I basically don't take a cutting implement to most plants. Sometimes I do, but very rarely. Normally, when I'm trying to prune plants, I'm just snapping the leaves off. Cheers, North Star. Good to see you. I'm just kind of snapping leaves off and stuff, which I think minimizes the risk of passing diseases like that from one plant to another. And I'm just kind of thinking to myself that I think probably a lot of non-commercial growers basically do it that way, whereas the commercial grows, you have essentially a lot of times fairly untrained employees, because you hear over and over again that the people they prefer basically non-experienced growers, but even when they are kind of experienced growers, it's not their grow, so they kind of don't care. And basically, how do I put this? They're just using the same equipment, the same shears and everything else across 1,000 plants. And you're not only increasing the risk of spreading that, but you're also increasing the risk that one of those 1,000 plants is going to have a disease, any kind of disease, right? It doesn't have to be even hop latent viral. Anyway, I'm just kind of thinking out loud, Northstar. I'm wondering, welcome, by the way. We were just kind of thinking out loud. I think I brought the question up. I don't know. Captain said he was going to test for hop latent viral, and I was wondering, among the whole panel and stuff, how worried are you about hop latent these days? It used to be a really terrifying thing for a few years, but now I feel like maybe some of the danger has settled down. What are your thoughts?
Um, in a sense, it is, but it's not as bad. I mean, I've done some research into all remediation, everything into it. I've talked to a place they can basically, take cuts that are infected, and then they have to go through a whole process of, taking the meristem cuts, going through weeks and weeks and weeks, up to 6 months or more, so they could take to get these
Mm.
things clean. And even then, it's only an 80% chance they can get it clean. So there's still a 20% chance they can't clean your cut. Now, if you look at the pricing for that, the price is a per month price, a storage price,
Mm.
the cuts, and the cost you about $2,000 or so,
Mm.
or more over the 6 months to try to save a plant.
Mm.
All right, but North, I got a
If you
question.
have no other possible source for it, and it's that good, I can see possibly being, afford to pay that because it's that important to you. But for, you're gonna spend $1,500 to save a plant, it might be easier just to
Mm.
find it again. Somebody else that
Mhm.
has it still. Hopefully, it's not infected. It spreads easy. You don't usually not going to tell you have it all the time until
Mm.
it's showing. You have a plant that's showing it. And you're like, oh shit.
Mm.
Well, how long has that plant had it? I mean, it could have been in your garden infecting 6 other plants before you even realized it. Now you got to go through and you basically got to test everything and start separating stuff
Yeah.
out.
Have
It can be a
you
big
found it
process.
inside your own garden?
What's that, bud?
Yes, I got it from from what the hell is that nursery? JV86 I had gotten a few years ago, and it was definitely some bunk shit. And I got rid of it, but I had shortly after I had another plant that started showing the same thing. Well, I went ahead and got stuff tested. And I had that. And I'm pretty sure it came from, it was not Midnight Sun Nurseries. What the hell was it? Anyway, it was a nursery that still basically clones out of Oakland, out of Harborside and everything. And
Dark heart.
it's basically you end up having to go through and test a bunch of stuff, and you'll more than likely find plants you didn't know had it. And luckily at the time it was mostly stuff I had just in seed stock, so I wasn't really too concerned about trying to preserve anything. So I just tossed everything, figuring I can start some more seed stock again. It definitely made me really hesitant about bringing in clone stock, period, because I would assume that from a well-known nursery you're going to have
Mm.
clean stock, but it wasn't the case. So now it's the kind of thing where if I bring anything in, I have a whole separate building that I keep plants in that are sick. They used to be my mail room. Now
Mm.
it's like the quarantine building. If I'm going to bring a plant in, or some plants that's not cloning right, is acting weird, it sits over in that room,
Mm.
and I test it and check things out. And I've had plants I had sit over and came back sick, and then the clone plant in the main rooms were fine. So I got sick before, but luckily I haven't had much issue lately. But it's stuff that does pop up, so you have to continually test for it once you've had it in your garden.
Mm.
I would say that if you've never had it in your garden, don't take in clone stock from anybody unless you can separate it and test it well.
Mm.
And as far as seed stock, if it's not older seed stock, or you're not totally confident, because I'm hearing it come out of seed stock too. So you
Yep.
definitely want to get anything tested from seed stock. I mean, especially
Mm.
before you start, propagating, taking
Working.
clones, and passing around and everything else. Make sure you got something that's clean.
Hmm.
And that was my whole point is, before I put a clone out, I'm going to run it through a run and I'm going to test that plant from seed or clone. It's going to get tested at week like 2 or 3. And then when I go to flip them, it's going to get tested. And then about a week before harvest, I'm going to test again. And if it doesn't show up in those 3 tests, and I'm going to make those open to the public, and all my clones will be tested for Amphibian virus and other pathogens.
There's a place I'm trying to think that I've used. Three Rivers Biolab. I think they're out of Washington State.
Hmm.
They test for a whole. It's like 10 different things they test for, all kinds of different viruses you can test for. So they're a really good source of test for a lot of those things. Like I said, I've looked into their pricing for things. They are expensive for remediation. I would imagine if you had like something not quite as prevalent as the haploid, you can probably save yourself, wouldn't be 6 months to clean it up. Something like a lettuce virus or one of those other crinkle leaf bullshit viruses that you can get, something like that, they could probably clean up easier. Yeah, the best way to just don't get it in your garden to begin with. It saves you a lot of testing. I mean, not that tests are that expensive, but you have to test the plant multiple times, make sure the offspring is clean. And if you have a room that has 10 moms, now you're like 10 times 3 or 4, you're talking 40, 50 tests all of a sudden to ensure you're good to go. That's when it adds up pretty quick. Goes through, it's only $15 a test. So yeah, you're still spending $600 in tests over the course of 3 months. It's not cheap, but it's cheaper than losing everything.
Ailments, I've been growing plants for a long time. Like, I know when a plant isn't right, and you don't fuck with plants that are like that. And it's easy and real. Like after a while, you can tell when a plant's vibrant, healthy, vigorous, still rocking.
Yeah.
You just take clones and perpetual and keep in your routine. I'm not in like, maybe it's just I've been lucky. But yeah, I think there's a lot of I don't think it's out there as much as people think it is. That's just my observation. And I go after all kinds of legacy strains. Any of my homies have something, I'm always like, yeah. I never run into anything like that. Oh, I've had weird plants over the years, but usually that's what your job is to get rid of those, right?
Oh yeah. No, I've had it. I said the plant I got from the nursery, the JV86, it looked good, it looked fine, it looked healthy. But when you grew it, I was like, what the fuck are they selling here? This is a complete, absolute bunk. It was like smoking cardboard. So I tossed it, and then that's about the same time when I heard about the haploid virus coming out. And it started making me think. And then I had another plant that was similar to it that was, close by to that location. And it had this, about 2 runs later, I had the same thing. So I ended up losing like 5 or 6 plants total out of all that shit. Wasted about easily 6 months of my time just cleaning shit out and testing it. It sucks. I'm kind of paranoid to the point now where I haven't literally accepted a clone from anybody in 2 years that I've actually kept. I feel bad. I've actually taken people, sent me a couple clones, and I said, "Oh, thank you so much," and I just trash it. I'm not trying to spend time with it. I don't know.
Breeder, it's different. Like you're trying to have a library, hold things. Your end game goals are different. I'm just a flower girl, right?
Yeah, I mean, exactly. I guess something that's not what I'm looking for.
Connection of genetics and perpetually run them for periods of time, years at a time, right? Same thing over and over and over, right? Yeah, if something was not performing, it would probably be pretty obvious, wouldn't it? Like, when you talk about all these other viruses that have been around forever, leaf curl and this and that. Well, we always weeded that shit out way before there was testing, because like once you're familiar with a plant, it's real obvious when a plant isn't right, right?
Yeah, but like I
Like,
said, it's a latent virus. It doesn't show up in all. It doesn't even show up in the whole plant. Sometimes only one branch shows up
I've
Mm.
as
heard
being.
all that. I've
And
heard all
usually
that.
doesn't even show that much until it's flower. When you
Mm.
have a plant that actually, if it shows you being kind of like sick, and you're like, well, I think that has haploid virus because it's growing, the branch come out the side and all. It's probably been sick for a while. I don't think it's
Mm.
not going to get sick. Oh, we cut a clone and the plant next to it got it sick, and all of a sudden it's going to go funk on you. Uh, Usually it takes a little while for that to get in there. And if it shows in veg, it's probably pretty bad. And then I'm not so positive with the whole factor of the purple strains. I hear a lot about the purple ones aren't catching it. They don't spread it. They don't test for it. I'm not sure whether that's they're blocking what somehow the purple blocks it from showing. Uh, Now I've never actually had a purple plant that tested for positive, so I don't know whether they're resistant to it. Maybe because I had purple Urkel in the same location that JVA6 was for years ago, and it was close by. Never caught it. I must have tested that thing like 9 times over the past like 5 years, and it's never
Like
popped before.
the
So
main the main thing in purple wheat, what's it called? Anthracyon or
yeah,
something like that. That would be something to look into. That maybe anthracyon is you know, fights fibroids and viruses. Like its properties
something's happening with it.
could be strong in that. That would be interesting.
It's intriguing. It's I don't know. It's one of those things that definitely has the potential to be kind of a what do you call it? Like a fuck, I can't think of the word for it. Um, what's Baba Yaga? Like uh fuck, like a monster in the desert, you know. Like it's one of those things that everyone can be terrified about, and like you say, it's a latent virus as you're describing it. Like it doesn't even really show up in veg and everything. So gosh, what a problematic thing. And how could you possibly afford to test every single thing you have? It's one of these things that, gosh, we've been lucky, I think, more than anything else for a long time, partly with you know, we always think that the weed illegalization was such a bad thing. This is maybe one of the few things that it probably was a good thing, because there was so little exchange of plants that I think a lot of people
Yeah,
didn't get some of these diseases. You know what I mean? And now that everybody can get a clone from anywhere, from anyone, da 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 da, da, you can buy them on the internet, et cetera, et cetera.
Yep.
Gosh, this is the time that we get, you know, an explosion of everything. It sort of mirrors in an interesting way the whole free love of the 60s. And then all of a sudden AIDS came out and everybody all of a sudden had to change their entire lifestyle and culture and everything else. I feel like a little bit of that is playing in the plant world. And certainly you don't want to, like, fuck, I don't want to have to test every single one of my plants. It's ridiculous. It's prohibitively expensive. Like Northstar was just saying, it would be a lot of money, honestly, to test every single plant and then
it
multiple
builds up quick.
times, on and on and on. Yeah.
I mean, even realistically, even just what I do, I just monitor certain plants, my mom
Mm.
plants, my clones that I'm using at any given time for my greenhouses for the season. It's about a 4 times a year where I go ahead and I take about 15 different samples. So I mean, it's not too much to keep track of things. But God forbid if I was to all of a sudden something test positive, that would be a whole change of gears. Now I have to go ahead and I gotta go ahead and order a whole shitload more tests and go through basically every mom plant, every single plant possible, sort plants out, remove stuff, kill stuff, retest, test clones. I mean, I could easily drop another 80, 90 tests in a matter of like 2 months just trying to get through everything. So having a
Yikes.
positive test really
Mm.
can really kick in the expensive testing procedures. Um, that's why I was saying it's at some point, depending on how big of an operation and how important the actual plants are and where they come from,
Mm.
if they're just something you start from seed, it might be cheaper, like something just tested positive, just say, fuck it. I'm just going to clear everything out and start from scratch, test one batch of tests and the new stuff and go forward. Sometimes that might be easier than going through loads and loads of tests and then picking out 5 or 6 plants that still have it and you have to remediate them. You could be spending, 15, 20 grand in a year to try to save yourself half dozen plants or more. And it's
It's interesting.
not only the money, but if it's a time thing. It could be months. So you could be sitting back for 6 months not using any of these plants. You could actually go find the plant again, test it. If it's healthy, move forward and save yourself 4 months of aggravation of trying to remediate it.
I'm
Or if
just
it's something
thinking
from your
how
seed stock, we back quicker too.
I'm just thinking how it's interesting. I just said that kind of the weed prohibition kind of kept some of the diseases at bay. Oh, I just lost my train of thought. I literally just lost my train of thought. Dang it. Never mind.
It
I had
seems
a
like
great
the
thought.
issue with the giant nurseries like Dark Heart and places of
That's where
that
I got
scale.
that JV86
When
Dark
Hmm.
Heart.
Yeah, when
Yeah, that
they had like thousands of varieties and were these massive operations of just being a nursery, with that didn't exist in the old days, really. Uh, yeah, and then they brought so many things together. The odds of something happening that looks like it happened, it looks like they were the vector point of it, because it's been traced back that a lot of certain things were obtained through their network, right? At a certain period of time before they cleaned it up or dealt with it. And that created a huge vector, right? I mean, like you say, the old days, yeah, it was more personal or homie to homie. Yeah, less spread or less of a vector point where, yeah, those huge nurseries seem to have been the catalyst to this thing getting spread so far.
I was just thinking about another
Also,
kind
too, when
of.
that when the nurseries first came out with the haploid virus, before that really first hit, people realized what it was. Everyone was scared of tobacco mosaic virus, if
Hmm.
you remember. Before then,
yeah.
I actually when I got this get tested like 80 plants in my garden, nothing popped up for it anywhere. Even
Hmm.
plants that looked funky. Everyone was possibly looking for the wrong thing. They were, everyone's bugging out about tobacco mosaic virus when I never seen anyone actually have a case of it anywhere that showed up or tested positive for it when there possibly could have been a hop latent viroid the whole time that was giving people troubles.
Got this blackbird just doing the weirdest shit outside. He's just like standing there in a pile of wood chips, just kind of ruffling his feathers. At first, I thought it was a couple of blackbirds making the bees with two backs, but he's just honestly being weird. Anyway, I remembered what I was talking about. By the way, cheers, I Gruesome. Good to see you. I was talking about the weirdly common experience of weed growers having to lose their plants over and over and over again, either because they got raided or because they had to move or whatever happens. And I was thinking how this hop latent is basically another one of those circumstances. Like you say, basically, if you were to get hop latent, you're better off just starting fresh, essentially. Because, like you say, if you were to try to get those plants back, it's going to be tens of thousands of dollars. It's going to take you 6 months or more just to get the clones back and restart on and on. You'd be better off just restarting or getting the same clones from someone else or whatever, right? And it's just
Yeah,
an interesting side effect of growing that we often have to lose our plants and start over. And I was just thinking how, most of the time we think of it as a bad thing. Like I lost most of my plants in the fall and I was pretty broken up about it. I lost a lot of plants I was really fond of, but on some other level, it's refocused me into other perspectives. You kind of make lemons out of lemonade and you end up basically going in different directions and whatever. And that potentially also has the side effect that anything that you had that might have been sick is dead now, right? So from time to
yeah.
time, you basically start over. Just kind of thinking out loud, but it's an interesting kind of
You don't cry about
benefit.
losing your tomato plant at the end of the year. You
Yeah,
usually
I suppose
start new
so.
the following year.
Right. Yeah, that's right.
I mean, it's annual too. Cannabis is pretty much just
Hmm.
annual.
Yep, that's true. No, I need to get that one tomato back. I mean, it's funny because tomatoes are phenotypically variant. You'll get this one plant that just rocks the socks off the other tomatoes. It'd be nice sometimes to keep the clones of tomatoes, but come on, keeping a clone of a tomato. Although I guess
Sometimes
you
that's the
can
fun of
most of
it.
the time.
That's the
Pardon?
fun sometimes, the
That's
gamble. What are
true.
you going to get
That's
this
true.
year? Is it going to be
Fun.
that good? Am I going to have am I making BLTs all summer? They're just out of this world, or am I going to be sitting here with a big sad funky pink tomato? Like,
That's it. Gosh,
We
what a
had
perfect sandwich too. Go ahead, D.
we had one year we had grew cherry tomatoes in the front yard. One plant right by the corner. Anyways, fall came, picked all the tomatoes, blah blah blah. Spring comes, and here's that plant again.
Hmm,
It came back the next year. It was
that's
awesome.
cool.
nice,
Yeah, lots
strong
of
one.
Hmm.
yeah. Then after that it was done, but it was pretty cool getting a second harvest off the same
Yep.
plant.
And sometimes those cherries will harvest. You can harvest them the entire year, basically the entire summer. They keep producing and stuff. Yeah, it's awesome. Uh, fuck was I going to say before that? I can't remember. J5 is talking about it took an extreme dryback in the greenhouses 3 to 4 weeks into flower due to an emergency for it to show its face, and it was all downhill from there, was J5 saying. He did. He said, I lost all my cuts, and some held for over 15 years to a dirty strawberry diesel cut and shitty cloning practices, aka arrow cloners. And then that's where he basically said, yeah, I guess it didn't even show until the dry back in the greenhouse for 3 to 4 weeks, in week 3 to 4, I guess is what it is. How interesting is that? And then J5 says I was OCD after that. If I as much as brushed up against the plant, I changed my shirt, never touched the plant with the same gloves, never touched the plant with my hand. Smart, honestly
Oh,
smart. Go ahead.
Yeah, I got paranoid like that too, where I ended up having like a bin that held
Mm,
I could fit about 6 pair of scissors in it. I have like bleach footer, and they're all like lined up.
mm,
And I just like rotate, like grab an end pair and cut, and then put them at one end and slide down to the next pair. I figure by the time I get back to that first pair, it'll be at least 10 minutes in the
mm.
soak before I get back to putting in.
And the reality is, if it's not hop latent, it's going to be something else, especially now with
Yeah,
legalization of worldwide weed. Like, we're going to have some really strange pathogens or bugs or whatever else, right? Like, for all we know, it's going to be some little beetle that comes from, I don't even know, Cote d'Ivoire or something. And until now, it only ever infected bananas or some shit, right? And then now that basically they're going to have weed all over the world, it's going to be some little weed pest and it'll get transported, I don't know, on whatever, a clone or something basically, and all of a sudden it'll break out in California. It's only a matter of time, really.
French beer.
Uh,
Well, I mean, like oranges, citrus has been wiped
mm,
out in areas over
that's true.
various. Like it's not. It's part of agriculture. It's not like yeah. I mean,
Yeah, it's honestly crazy. You used to drive through California, and I never really drove through Florida, but you used to hear constantly about Florida oranges, Florida orange juice, on and on. It doesn't exist anymore, basically. Like the entire industry is gone. Same thing basically in California, a lot less oranges than it used to be. You've received a request to record to the cloud. Well,
some of
sure,
those are
let's
like
record to the
over
cloud.
Mediterranean
Wait, what?
pest, and some of them are yeah, the Sunkiss used to contract out a lot of citrus in our area. I forget the whole chain of events over the years, but we were quarantined, and then this happened, and that happened, and then yeah, they bulldozed all those
Yeah.
Mm,
trees, and that's the end of citrus around here for the most part. There's a few people that do small stuff, but the big operations, it got wiped out by
mm,
whatever, all the different things that happened.
crazy. Let me look here if I saved a story about this kind of stuff. Oh no, what was the story that I saved a couple days ago that I want to show you guys? It was people's use of alcohol or opioids causes greater secondhand harms than marijuana consumption does, study finds. Open link in the
Uh,
tab.
I mean,
oh,
didn't we all kind of know that? Like
Well, you got to do a study before it's actually
no.
proven.
life experience.
No, it's you're not wrong. God, what a crappy leaf that they just picked. This is always amazing the pictures that they pick on stuff like this washed out, freaking hungry ass leaf with probably what spider mites and white flies on it. What else is on there? Well,
that
okay,
could be
just
a real
spider mites and
sativa
white
lighter.
flies. Yeah,
Or
right.
lighter.
At least that. All right, we don't need marijuana news in our inbox right now. This is according to Ben Adlin. This is just published a couple days ago from marijuanamoment.net. New study of thousands of people nationwide suggests that secondhand harm caused by marijuana use is far less prevalent than that of alcohol, with respondents reporting secondhand harm from drinking at nearly 6 times the rate they did for cannabis. Perceived harms from opioids and other drugs also outweighed those related to marijuana. Duh. 7,000, that's pretty good respondents. 7,800 people from 2020. 34.2% said they'd experienced secondhand harms related to alcohol use over the course of their lives. Just 5.5%, meanwhile, said they'd ever experienced secondhand harms related to cannabis. 7.6% of people said they'd ever been harmed by others' use of opioids, while 8.3% reported experiencing harm from other unspecified drugs. Anyway. I mean, like you said, but that you can file that under duh, but it's still somebody has to actually do a study on it that marijuana is so much. I mean, having run tasting groups and something, we never had fights at any of the groups. I used to spend a lot of time at the cannabis club. They had parties all the time where the place was totally full. Not a single one time did they ever have some kind of a fist fight or anything else. Like some guy's girlfriend gets bumped into, as they're walking through the hallway. Oh, it's a fucking fight. Not once,
when
not a
when
single once.
when I growing up in LA and going through the 90s. In 2010, that's like guess when High Times first started throwing those events. First couple were downtown LA, the rest were in San Bernardino. But I had booths and was at all those. And I remember talking to my friends there at the time, like everybody was represented. The Latino neighborhoods, the gay, like it was like a melting pot of everybody where you could not bring that together at that time without gunfight play, shit happening, beefs, all this stuff. Like that was just part of LA culture. But at the cannabis events, nope, they all went smooth. You never saw any of that. Oh, they were like little beefs with this breeder fucking confronting some other company and huffing and puffing with their big security guards protecting them and shit. But no, you brought all these other people together that could never hang out in the same
Mm,
spot and at a cannabis event. And yeah, at the same kind of concerts and sporting events, there's always violence there
mhm.
with alcohol. I like like yeah, even I was talking to Smash last night. I seen this, I was on the Kimmel show, but he had all these clips of the Celtics in the crowd where it was like one Celtic fan beating up another one or groups of fighting. Like, and it was just obvious it was a bunch of drunk people like fighting their own fans and shit. Like you could see
Seriously, you're
where
fighting your own friends. What the hell? Like,
yeah, yeah,
imagine what
you're
they do to
winning
other
the
people.
championship, and there was like numerous things that broke out in the crowd during the game. There was drunk people fighting.
Just once you'd like to see a basketball game where everyone inside lights up a joint or something, right? Wouldn't that be spectacular? Just see, like, let's just run an experiment and see what happens. Do we need security? Is there going to be a bunch of fist fights? Is someone going to get murdered? Yeah. Put it this
They
way,
need
if you
to
gave out free alcohol, do two experiments. Give out free alcohol at one game and free weed at the other and see what happens.
so yeah, they need to like hand out edibles at the airport for everybody.
That's it. Exactly. Oh, can you imagine if they did that? Holy cow, airlines would be so happy. Like everyone's just asleep in the airplane, just
Everyone's
blissed
passed out
out.
in the and then it's wait, we're here, wake up everybody. Oh, we're here, great, let's go.
That's it. All they got to do, all the stewardesses got to do is go around handing out munchies, just ring names and
Stop
stuff.
paying anybody to their seat because they're getting out of control anymore. All that crazy shit that's going
That's
on
it.
nowadays.
Nobody's screaming about how the person sitting next to her is an alien. Do you remember
I
that one
mean,
where the
well,
chick was
think of
talking
our
about how she's sitting
country.
next to an alien or some shit? She just would not let up on the idea. Yeah, lady, you're sitting next to an alien. An alien had to take a commercial flight on a
Yeah, where's
freaking
this
Boeing
fucking
Airbus
spaceship?
or whatever, their Boeing 767 or whatever the fuck to go. Yeah. Jesus Christ. To go
Definitely
from
when the guy was
fucking
Boeing.
Milwaukee to wherever the shit. He couldn't just hop into his goddamn space saucer. No, he had to take a
Wisconsin.
commercial flight.
Well, just imagine, like, when would prohibition end? Like in the 30s, or
Mm.
right in the 30s? If
When did
somehow they
prohibition
they never really lifted the alcohol, kept alcohol as like a bad thing, treated it like cannabis has been the last 100 years, but then cannabis was like replaced it as like the you know the social whatever that alcohol's been to our society for all these years. How much different humans would be, how much different the world would
Mhm.
be, right? Like, because to
Oh
this
my god,
day
yeah.
we all know and see the damage of alcohol, opiates, whatever, alcohol
Mhm.
mainly, right? As a cannabis person that you know grown cannabis my life for a living, yeah, the who our real competition, who our real foe is, has been alcohol. I'm sure they're behind why things are moving so slow with all this because they're the ones that stand to lose. There's already so many studies that show, oh, we're surpassed alcohol sales and it is, but it's still being done in this weird way instead of like going, yeah, we had it wrong. Alcohol is really bad. And we need to put restrictions on that and treat it more dangerously. In cannabis, it's really good. And we should, but now we're far from ever accepting that truth.
But for the longest time, just in the last few years, they used to say that alcohol was healthy for you, that a glass of red wine every day or every other day was super good for your heart and da da da. Now it turns out that all amounts of alcohol, no matter how small, are carcinogenic or are actually quite bad for you, on and on and on. Hopefully we don't ever hear that about weed. Of course, we have to be open to the idea that it's possible, but
Then
it's not very hard to imagine that alcohol is bad for you. Anyone who's overdrank and gotten a hangover the next day, or freaking heartburn or whatever else, like you physically feel that alcohol is a bit of a poison. I don't think you get the same impression from weed. North Star, we were talking about this
Oh,
last night. What do you think about this? It was an article in the LA Times. It was an investigation both by the LA Times and Weed Week. Those guys have come a long way.
Oh, I saw.
Uh, Basically, the long story short, it was the dirty secret of California's legal weed, that a lot of the commercial cannabis sold both in flower and concentrates, all forms of cannabis apparently, were pinging hot for a ton of different pesticides, and not only for pesticides, but for a ton of pesticides on that are not on the list. Basically, there I don't know, I can't remember what they said, but there's about 20, 25 pesticides on the list, but there's a bunch of stuff that has not been updated since 2018, and there's all kinds of pesticides that are still
They
terrible
don't
for
even
you.
test it. Yeah.
That's right. They don't even test for it. They
So
asked, who was it in
if
here?
they're
They
getting around to
asked,
getting the whole loop around the system there, they can go ahead and use the dirty shit and they won't get tested for it, so it's clean.
that's it. There was a, let's see if I can find it in here. There was yeah, a pink Achai vape from Steezy, the state's top selling cannabis brand. Here, I'll show you guys so you don't think I'm just making this up.
yeah, Michigan just
Pink
takes
Achai
it
from
from the
Steezy.
medical.
State stop stealing. Let me finish this for a sec, Captain. Carried
I,
more than
I
60 times the maximum amount of pymetrozine allowed by federal regulators in cigarettes, but because California does not require testing for pymetrozine, the company that makes Steezy products said it's not a violation of state regulations. And the quote from them was, "We adhere to all standards and limits set by the state of California, which has some of the strictest testing requirements and pesticide limits in the country." Steezy President Toxato said in an email. All technically true, right? So, like, well, it's just not on the list. We used nothing that's on the list, but if it's not on the list, well, I don't know what you want us to do, buddy. But what do you think about that, North Star? Like the fact that basically a lot of the commercial weed you're getting is probably laden with pesticides.
You have to
and
grow your own.
also
You just
and
not rely on anybody's word for anything. And for that matter, if you grow as much of the food you can eat yourself too.
Mm. Yeah,
The
you got
lack
well,
it.
of all the commercial grown food is just pitiful.
Mm.
what I was getting to was, well, it's okay because in Michigan, when it fails on the medical side and they can't sell it on the medical side, they just move it over to the rec side because rec doesn't require testing.
Really? Wow. You've said that
Yeah,
before, and it's always surprising to me. Hmm.
exactly. There's no testing for rec weed in Michigan. So everything that fails for the medical side goes right into the recreational, right on the shelf.
Gosh, we're
I
gonna go
really,
through our.
especially
Go
if
ahead.
you're using it for medical purposes, you really need to grow your own
Yeah.
or somebody you really trust to grow it for you. Just randomly walking
Mm,
into a store and say, that's a well-known brand. Well, you can see here, well-known brands figure out end around to try to beat the system so they can maximize their profit because that's their end goal, not taking care
yeah.
of the patients. It's their profit, the end goal. So, it's
Yeah.
kind of
Any
hard
group
to
that big, it's
find
a
the stuff
corporation.
you need when the
100%.
system's busted that way.
Yeah. I was going to say that we're going to go through a real reckoning in the next, I don't know how many number of years, but in the future, with regard to a lot of the industrial and other pollutants that we basically just saddled the world with. I just read today on Reddit, we could probably find it if we really wanted to. There was something that came out that there's a bunch of microplastics identifiable in testicular tissue, and they were hypothesizing that one of the causes of erectile dysfunction, or just basically a dysfunction in general, I guess sexual dysfunction in general, could be attributable to microplastics. They've discovered now that, and of course I was just laughing because I was like, oh, now they're going to finally take it seriously when you find microplastics in your balls. But they've been finding microplastics in your gut. Basically, there's a tremendously higher incidence of colorectal cancers lately. Even very young people now are getting colon cancer and so on, that normally people wouldn't get until their 60s and 70s, basically, if at all. Now people in their 20s and 30s are getting it and actually dying from it. And of course, people don't quite know yet what it's going to be, but that's where I'm going with this. I think most likely we're going to kind of connect the fairly obvious dots, like when it quacks like a duck and fucking walks like a duck, it's a goddamn duck, right? So if our world is filled with industrial pollutants and our bodies are laden with fucking microplastics and pymetrozine and whatever else, we're going to figure out that a lot of that stuff is basically messing our shit up. It's going to be something else.
Well,
Anyway,
I read a thing
Real.
that they found
yeah.
microplastics in like chicks, like chickens in
Mhm.
their heart, inside their heart, like uh chicken being born with microplastics in their heart. Like that's pretty gnarly.
Yeah, so it came
Yeah,
I
from
think
the
it's
egg, in other
look
words.
at just the
eggs.
how gardening is now. They had people, oh, it's conventional gardening and organic. 80 years ago, conventional gardening was organic. We
Mhm.
went ahead and
Yeah.
changed it to a petrochemical garden scene
Yeah.
where we're depleted all nutrients. And then on top of that, in the past so many years, we've also introduced thousands of new chemicals
Mhm.
between house cleaners, makeups, yard care, everything. A lot of stuff gets tested until they start figuring it might be linked to a disease, and they test it and figure out what
Mhm.
chemicals are really bad for you. They're still not doing a lot of testing. Is how the chemicals react. How does my how's my the chemical in my toothpaste react with the chemical and the fertilizer from the food that I'm eating in my stomach with the makeup I'm putting on or whatever the mixture of chemicals are. It's almost like this. They have like 20,000 chemicals that are in people's houses that are putting on their face, in their air, on their food, in their yards, and it's all getting mixed up in our gut and in our bloodstream somewhere. And
Mhm.
how they all react together. It's a lot of stuff we're
Yeah,
going to be
but
finding out in the future. It's going to be
like
a
the
lot of
other
detriment
side,
to ourselves.
of that argument is somehow we're consuming all this shit, pollution and chemicals, but the longevity of your life is getting longer, right? Right. So yeah, even
On
though there's
average, yeah, but that's with a tremendous amount of interventions, bud. So, for example, in many cases, cancers are survivable, but you take a cost in the terms of chemotherapy and months of treat. Your hair falls out and everything else, and you're worried you're going to die and anything else. But modern medicine is so advanced that they can save a lot of those people. I think maybe that's contributing to the issue. Because seriously, why are 30-year-old people, perfectly healthy runners and whatever else, basically people are in the peak of their lives, why are they getting colorectal cancer and all these different things at higher rates than the past? Has to be something, right?
there's a correlation, but like let's say that over the last 50 years you started dying when you were 50 because oh you've been exposed to all this stuff. Oh, I think that the people would think differently about it. But here we are trying to change and uh, get rid of all this stuff. Except that then there's I'm just pointing out the other side. Not that I'm like a total environmentalist and can't believe that we treat the earth the way we do, and even that it's that now we have the tech and the wisdom and knowledge that we do in the world and to know and like know better, but we can't stop, right? Because
Mm.
basically money and profits and all that is the machine of that whole thing. But yeah, I mean, how can we not like value the earth? Holy shit, something's wrong with us.
Yeah, we've kind of created a culture where we value profit above all, and we've told ourselves there's really no reason why we have to do this, but we've told ourselves that the shareholder value is the most important thing in the entire country. Basically, the shareholders of any publicly traded corporation, their value must go up, and all other consequences be damned. Whether it's environmental, social, for the workers, you name it, doesn't fucking matter.
That's the crutch of where we're as humanity we're off because nature should be the first thing that we have to period. Not end of story. If we don't if we don't respect nature and follow the laws of nature and covet nature and earth, all that, then we're just fucked. And that's what it looks like we are.
Hmm.
You know, even though there's more like it seems like there is like a shifting of the tide. I think
Yeah,
even
more people are
that
going to bigger cities to
well,
look for
but
work.
like even people in general kind of like whether there's anything they can do about it or not, overall are more sympathetic to the whole environmental thing, right? Like and recycle or all these things that are like so bullshit, even like separating all this stuff and the whole concept of the recycling is all just really like a farce in a way too. I mean, I guess
Performative,
now
yeah.
some of the biggest problems is we used to just put it on barges and ship it to other countries. Now those countries don't want our barges of fucking trash,
We
right?
used to literally do, yeah, and Bud's not exaggerating. We used to literally all the stuff that you painstakingly sort out into your recycling bin was basically getting thrown into a big bin at every port of call and shipped to China or the Philippines, where they would literally, in many cases, poor people would just crawl on the hills and sort through this stuff for anything possibly of value. We were essentially offloading our shit to another country. We were not actually really even recycling it, quote unquote, because the way they were doing it was so environmentally harmful that you'd be better off basically starting over with the plastic. So yeah, we were very much performatively getting rid of our plastic, and this is, by the way, something the plastic industry has managed to offload, for example, and the main producers, companies like Coca-Cola and Pepsi and so on, they don't take responsibility for the massive amounts of plastic that they foist upon us. Like they could totally serve Coke in glass bottles, but that's more expensive for them. So they've decided to use plastic, and plastic, of course, can't be recycled like glass can. So it's basically
I
just been
mean,
foisted off onto us.
it comes in the news every once in a while, the stats of that, like we have some huge island of plastic trash floating out in the ocean. Ships have to navigate around this thing. It's so big, right?
4 miles.
Yeah, it's just this massive thing, right? Floating out in the ocean. They already show that there's these ships. You can, for one of our bullshit wars or entanglements or military bullshit, we could easily put that same money and go pick up all that shit once and for all. Because like it's untenable to have that
Mm.
ruining the ocean and killing off things and all the damage it's doing in the ocean. But for decades, it's just like a problem. Oh well, it's more important to spend money on missiles. You know what I mean?
Well, yeah, everything
Yeah.
everything comes down to the dollar in this country, no matter what. So the best
Mm.
way to do it is to spend your dollars smartly. For instance, out here in Sonoma County, we have a creamery called Strauss Creamery. They all their stuff comes in glass still. They reuse the glass jars for their milk. They said they get an average of 80% of their glass returned to them, and it gets used up to 5 times refilled
Well,
before it gets
Mm.
recycled and stuff. So they try to push the responsible practices to other creameries and dairies in the area. So if you
Strauss,
keep
I
go with
buy
companies that spend their money
chocolate
right and do it right, they'll get better, and hopefully maybe some of the bigger companies will take notice of some of that.
I buy Strauss chocolate milk, not in some
Yeah.
giant thing. And it's expensive. It's like $6. But then when you pay for it, it's $9 because they add $3
For the
for the
jar.
glass.
Hmm.
And I have them right here in the bathroom, 3 of them. I just have it. Well, I've gone to Sprouts, but forgot to bring the bottles back because, like, if it was like 80 cents or something, I might not even think to save them and
Yeah.
recycle them, right? Oh, $3? Oh, I'm going now. I have like I can get 1.5 of the with my bottles, right? As a kid, in the 70s, yeah, like we used to collect those Coke bottles, any of those, and I think they were like a nickel or a dime each, right?
Dime.
And that was what used to feed our candy obsession, right? Yeah, somehow you could find a few bottles in the hood and take it right to the liquor store in the corner, and he'd give you the 30 cents or 60 cents and buy candy, right?
Yep.
Yeah, I don't
And
know where we're gonna go with all this.
chocolate milk, because I know Captain's on here. He's been in Thailand where you can't get good chocolate milk. Now he's back in Ohio. Yeah, Strauss, that's my favorite chocolate milk. It's worth the money. It is. It's a treat.
Yeah.
Well,
I mean, sometimes
has
sometimes it costs more, but I think if you support the businesses that do business properly, support the environment, provide a good product. Try to support those businesses as much as you can. Keep them going. Maybe we'll see more businesses like that come out. We can get enough people that are purchasing the right way with their money instead of just trying to get the cheapest damn thing they can all the time.
Well,
Purchase value.
I tell you what, bud. On Friday, I'll let you know if it's going to be the 3rd or the 4th week from now that I'm coming out to see you. So take one of those bottles right when I come out to see you. Get it filled up for me and let me taste that chocolate milk, please. And while you're at it, might as well grab 2 more.
You guys should do a
Oh, they
chocolate
make good
milk
ice cream.
tasting. You should seriously, when you get out there, you should do a chocolate milk tasting and stream it on YouTube. Smoke a couple of joints and then taste like 2 or 3 different chocolate milks and decide which one is the best.
That's a good
But
one.
I think the best way to do it is to take the same chocolate milk and have it at different temperatures. Because I think chocolate milk right before that freezing point is like the ultimate tasting chocolate milk.
My assumption would be that you like the little bit less sweetness of it because as fluids kind of get colder, you need a little bit more sugar. That's famously why Coke and stuff is basically half sugar, literally like fucking 12 spoons of sugar in a can of Coke. When you serve it really cold, because people like soda usually very, very cold next to freezing, you almost can't taste the sweetness unless it's just over the top sweet, basically. So I wonder if that chocolate milk that is somewhat cloyingly sweet, if you were to warm it up, like if you were to basically make it like a warm milk, basically, it would be just like too sweet, probably. I wonder if that freezing makes it a little bit less sweet for you. Plus, that coldness is so unique too. I really like cold drinks and stuff. I love ice water and ice cream and stuff like that. I wonder if that's part of it.
Everything cold, just about.
Yeah, seriously.
I
No,
like
seriously, Captain, you should do it. Go ahead, Northstar.
I like even like frozen cupcakes. I put cookies in the
That's
freezer
true.
sometimes, all
That's
kinds
true.
of stuff. Frozen grapes are bomb.
Oh man, I made the
Hey,
best
I
snickerdoodles
lived
the
in,
other day, and even frozen, I would scoop a little bit of ice cream between the 2 cookies and eat. Oh, spectacular. Go ahead, Captain.
Heck yeah.
all this stuff you're talking about. Oh, I put this in the refrigerator type shit. I lived in Thailand for like the past 8 years. Everything went in the refrigerator because
Yeah,
if
that's
not,
true.
it was just goo to begin with.
Yeah, that's true. Huh.
I mean, you grab your dab jar out of the refrigerator, and by the time you do a dab or 2 dabs and you get done coughing and you go to put it back in, it's already just goo,
Hmm.
liquefied.
Oh, why is my keyboard not working? That's weird. All right,
Kind of
apparently my
like my
keyboard doesn't work.
apartment.
It's weird. It's just not connecting. Well, I can't respond to anyone in the chat, so I was going to say something in the chat, but apparently I can't. So, I was going to say hello to Grant. Cheers, Grant. Good to see you. St. Pete Runner's in the house. He's saying chocolate soy milk. I can't stand soy milk. The one that I'm okay with is oat milk. I was okay with almond milk for a while, but then I love almonds, but I lost the taste of almonds. Plus, the idea of people painstakingly milking the almonds it seemed like too much work to me. I'm joking, but I just got sick of
It's a big
almond
hit
milk.
in our house. My kids love oat milk.
Yeah,
That's what they're all about, oat milk. As a matter of fact, I went out and bought a huge bag of. They want to make their own oat milk, so I bought them a huge bag of oats so they can go ahead and make oat milk with.
That's cool. I don't know exactly what I like about it more. I think it's a little bit more of a neutral, normal flavor. Almond milk kind of stands out, or they'll sweeten almond milk too much. Plus, it has a little bit of a bitter back note. Just kind of, it was weird. And the thing is, I pretty much just drink my coffee black anymore, so I don't even worry about almond milk or anything else. But like for example, for French toast or something, I don't really like milk, so I never really have milk in the house. But we have almond milk, so I'll put a little bit of oat milk in the eggs, basically, as I whip them up, basically for the French toast, and it seems to actually work really well. Whereas almond milk, it kind of adds this just a little bit of an odd flavor. I don't really like it that much. Anyway, I guess to each their own. And soy milk, oh, that's last place for me, man. Holy cow! But then again, I don't know about you guys, I've never actually liked milk. Like just milk itself, I'm
Nope.
always just like, bleh. And
Nope.
I know this sounds really snooty. This is not how it's meant to be. For some reason, I really can't, like, I really don't like milk all that much, but I can stand organic milk. Like if for some reason there's something different about it, like Organic Valley, I can drink that. Not a big fan of it, but like with some cookies or something, I can totally dig on that. But like not organic milk, it tastes gross to me. It tastes like a pus, like pus or some shit. Can't stand it.
I generally
Yeah,
find that when I
I
look at
started drinking organic
expiration
milk.
date,
I
I go
like
shop
Hold on a sec, bud.
expiration
Go ahead,
date most
Northstar.
of the time.
Sorry, we
I
didn't
would
hear
say
either of
generally
you guys.
the organic milk doesn't expire fast either. It seems to have the expiration dates always further out on the organic milk. It doesn't expire
yeah.
Oh
as
yeah,
fast.
yeah.
That seems like odd, like an odd thing that the chemical milk has a shorter expiration date than the organic milk. But it's probably been maybe almost 10 years. And I like milk that I drink organic milk only. And yeah, like I couldn't drink any other milk than that.
Mm.
Like you get used to it. And then, yeah, the other stuff isn't even milk compared to
Mm.
organic milk. Costs a little
Most
more, but it's 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 worth it.
most of the milk in Thailand comes from powder anyways. A lot of Asia is that way.
Kind of makes sense. You guys don't really have a, well, I guess you don't live there anymore. They don't really have a
Cows.
dairy culture as much. Yeah, I mean they're definitely not like dairy people. A lot of Asians are intolerant to lactose anyway, so they don't even bother
Well,
drinking milk.
think how
Yeah.
many cows on a dairy farm it takes to make like a truckload of
I-
milk. Holy shit.
Oh my god! Yeah, when I worked at in the casinos in Atlantic City, I worked with the kitchen I worked in was actually half Chinese, where didn't even speak English, and
Mm.
my other half of our kitchen line was American. And they thought, milk products pretty foul. Cheese, oh my god, cheese
Mm.
was gross. As a matter of fact, I had some fried goat cheese in a salad I was eating. They're like, "What is that?" I tried telling them fried goat cheese. I was like, "No, bah, milk, and cheese." Oh my god, they were gonna vomit that I was eating goat cheese. It was like the most vile thing.
Oh, funny. Operation Annihilation is saying, well, I don't know what the BGs is, but he's saying milk gives me the BGs. What is that? The belly grumbles or something? Sure. Anyway. Well,
I haven't
running
touched
down
milk
on
since
time a
first
little
grade.
bit. Pardon, Northstar?
So I haven't touched a thing of milk since first grade. I had a sour milk on my lunch one day,
Oh, that'll do it.
and that was it. That did
Yeah,
it for me. I couldn't
that'll
touch
do it.
milk since then.
Now
Oh, there's
wait,
nothing
Jimmy,
quite as
you
rancid as
don't
milk
like
Oh,
products.
milk? Does that mean you don't like ice cream?
Oh no, frozen milk I will do. I just don't drink milk. I
Yeah,
cook
I'm just
with it,
saying
and
like
I
gelato and ice cream and shit.
frozen
I'll
milk
dig on that.
every night. I have to have frozen milk.
Yeah.
It's not a night if I don't have it.
chocolate.
That's it.
And
I
that's my
dispose of frozen
addiction.
milk in a series of
I'm
small
addicted to
bowls with a
chocolate too.
spoon.
There, Cap.
There you go.
I'm definitely addicted to
But
chocolate. I always have a bag of chocolate raisins. It's the kind of thing where I'm like doing work. I got to come in the house and have a little
Mm.
chocolate raisin and back to my work I'm doing.
You
Little
know what?
chocolate fix every now and then.
Maybe this is an interesting conversation to talk about sort of on the way out because we're sort of running towards the end here. By the way, happy belated 420, folks. So the other day, this guy that I follow on YouTube, what's his name? James Hoffman, I think is the guy's name. Don't quote me on this exactly, but he has a pretty big coffee channel, a couple million subscribers, and he was apparently the, I don't know, world coffee champion or some shit some number of years ago. I don't know, but I follow him for the coffee. It's fun to see him talk about coffee. And he went to just the ultra snootiest coffee shop you could possibly find in London in Mayfair, where all the billionaire oligarchs live, basically. That's where, Vlad, the whatever the fuck, steel baron from Vladivostok sends his wife to basically live. Anyways, it's all Bentleys and Lamborghinis and stuff. And they had a 256 pound, so not even dollar, 256 pound, don't quote me on the price, but it was about that shot of espresso. It was a $350 probably shot of
wow.
espresso. And basically he started to tell us about it. He's like, oh, I gotta go try this. I have to know what this tastes like. And so he talked about it. They didn't let him film in the place because it's so ritzy. They don't give a fuck about the YouTube exposure, right? They charge $250 for an espresso shot. What the fuck do they care, right? They have billionaires coming all day long, probably. Anyway, it was a coffee from a Japanese plantation. So that's unusual by itself, right? Since when have you gotten Japanese coffee? The Japanese plantation only has something like 300, no, can't remember how many trees they have, but they only produce, and I shit you not, they only produce 300 kilos per year of this coffee. That's 600 something pounds, 650 pounds of coffee total for the entire plantation. So that's apparently one of the reasons why this coffee costs like $256 a shot. Anyway, it got
Yeah.
me thinking because he started to talk about it. He was like, as he talked about it, he's like, no, this is not the best coffee I've ever had or something. It was more for the experience. And he was actually even saying like, oh, I would really recommend if you're going to spend this kind of money on coffee, he said you could spend a lot less and get competition coffees, super individual single source coffees. And so he started to talk about it. And that's where I'm jumping off with this. He talked about how people have started to grow coffee kind of in your neck of the woods, North Star and Napa Valley and stuff like that in California, and chocolate too. Chocolate, coffee, a few other things that people in many cases are worried about. I don't know if this is the reason they're doing it, but one of the reasons I think they're doing it is that places like Equatorial Guinea and so on, where they grow a lot of these things, or South America, they're going to be in jeopardy for climate change and stuff. And not only that, I think it's just a high margin profit, a high margin product that they can grow in places like California. So I guess the question is, do you guys think that there's going to be a boom of this kind of stuff? And are you interested? For example, North Star, I feel like this would be up your alley to grow chocolate and coffee, let's say on your hill, and basically grow like super single source. I mean, fuck, if you could make $200 a pound for this coffee, would you grow that?
For sure. I mean, I've actually looked into it to have put in a bigger greenhouse to have grow my own tea plants. So I can pick my own tea leaves. So I can get my nursery down here sells plants for tea and all this kind of stuff. I can get different little mini bananas and all kinds of crazy shit. But Sonoma County, basically, we are loaded with all kinds of small, unique, hard to find produce. I mean, the farmers market down here is an exotic trip. Sometimes you go and see stuff you never even heard of before. We have
Yep.
the Heirloom Festival here every year, which is just a bountiful of all kinds of rare and exotic foods you can experience and grow yourself.
That's cool.
I know as far as the wine goes, we're known for having the most varieties of wine out here. I mean, Napa's really Chardonnay and Pinots, I think, but out here we have all kinds of little individual wineries that have, just one little field of this Italian grape, and they make so many cases with that wine. That's only grape around the area that has that vintage, and then so forth. Different places they have these small, unique, just a lot of unique stuff. So I can definitely see it, something like that in Sonoma County taking hold and people doing that, having a small chocolatier that actually has a chocolate farm and grows it. I can see that definitely taking place.
If you follow climate change to its, future ultimate conclusion, okay, some areas are going to lose the climate that made it advantageous for that to grow there, and other places are going to gain that, right? Because it's changing, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah, there'll probably be a lot of opportunity in the next 20, 30 years being someone that entrepreneur type that capitalizes on, oh, hey, this crop that used to not grow good here because it wasn't hot enough or wasn't whatever, now the area is more, changed, because that's what climate change is, right?
Yeah,
So
I mean, one I was interested myself in was
going to get better, right?
yeah, it's not going to get any better. It's naturally going to keep going, but I was interested myself in wasabi. That was something. The actual real wasabi, like Japanese wasabi, is usually most imitation shit everywhere. So climate wise, Mendocino County is a good spot to be able to grow wasabi. You just basically need nice, clean water and a flowing stream, and it grows in the rhizomes in a stream. So that's the kind of thing that exactly it's not a hard thing to grow. You just have to have the right climate for it. So as climate changes everywhere, you're going to have new locations that open up for something like growing wasabi. That would be a fun thing, something different to get into totally. Because from my understanding, most of the wasabi you get when you go get sushi someplace is some kind of fake green colored is horseradish of some sort. So
I'm just looking. There's a couple places in Oregon now that have apparently nailed the formula to grow wasabi. Most of the wasabi, if you're familiar with sushi, I think at this point most people are familiar with sushi, but if you're not, go look it up, I guess. But if you've ever eaten sushi at a freaking sushi place or buffet or whatever, generally speaking, that green stuff you get is not actual wasabi. They call it wasabi, but it's basically just green dyed horseradish, essentially, and it's yummy. Don't get me wrong, the green horseradish I think is yummy with sushi, but actual wasabi is quite a bit milder. It's basically the same kind of flavor. That's basically why they use horseradish, but it's way milder, and it goes really well with sushi. And it basically is like this little tuber, what do they call it, a ribosome or something? I can't
Yeah.
remember the name for it, but it grows in really clean mountain streams, basically, and it's been traditionally really hard to cultivate. Anyway, now they grow it in Oregon and make really good money from it.
Hmm.
Uh,
A good product.
right?
Sushi's getting more and more popular.
Heck yeah, yeah. Ironically, one of those things you have to be careful with because we've polluted the oceans so much that all the fish that, especially all the fish we eat, are basically filled with heavy metal. So that's awesome. One of the healthiest products in the world has been turned into one of the least healthy products. Yay, humans! We've done a great job. But anyway, it is what it is. Maybe we'll be able to solve a problem someday. It'll probably be AI that does it. It'll probably be some fucking robot that saves our ass, and we're just going to be twiddling our thumbs like jerk offs.
Yeah,
Yeah,
he's
the
gonna figure
robot.
out how to solve the problem is to get rid of the people on the planet.
Yeah, right. Shit. Jesus. Don't tell Jeff Bezos. That's what he's been trying to do. He wants us all to live in Amazon warehouses in space and then have the rest of the planet just for him and his rich ass buddies. Fuck that guy.
I
Well, I think.
really,
Absolutely.
Go ahead,
I
Captain.
thought, I really thought the last episode we had was going to be like, the outbreak of 1918 back then. I thought it was going to wipe out like 1/3 of the population.
Oh, you mean COVID or what?
Yeah.
Mm.
I didn't want to come out and say the name of it, but
It
yeah,
certainly could have.
exactly.
Yeah, no, it's yeah.
Well,
I don't think they
maybe that was
demonetize
just
streams
a
and stuff now
warning
for it.
shot.
Go ahead.
That
All
was
right.
like a warning shot. The one thing I noticed is just like everything, we like overreacted and like did all this crazy shit. But now that
That
the
was to
juice
get
started,
everybody in the
it's
line.
like it never happened. It's like it never happened. We're like we try to go right back to uh, a situation that, yeah, they were warning that something like this is possible and
Mm.
inevitable science for decades. So like they were on 60 Minutes and on this and on that. Oh, well, COVID was like a warning shot, I think. Like, oh
It
yeah, we
wasn't even
need
just a warning shot, though. People forget that there are a huge amount of run-on circumstances, like basically anecdotally, if you know any
Businesses.
teachers, for example, among other things, a huge amount of restaurants and everything else still to this day haven't really come back.
I think
The
we're
entire culture of Portland changed basically because of COVID. The entire culture I've heard of LA, for example, I was talking just a few weeks ago about how crazy vibrant I found LA. It used to be that it was this kind of in many cases kind of run down place, but I felt like it had changed so much. But I've heard over and over again that people say it's nothing like it was basically right before COVID. A lot of people's favorite restaurants shut down and everything. Well, what I was going to say is that if you talk to any teachers, apparently the prevailing opinion, it's not even just a few that you talk to, apparently basically all teachers think that kids are way behind. And apparently, what did I hear the other day? Any kids that were in fifth grade specifically during the lockdowns are basically fucked now. I guess those kids probably now, well, logically, I guess some of those kids are probably now going to high school. And apparently they're so far behind that teachers are really depressed about the idea of ever really catching them up. And that is apparently a
and I
generational
imagine
issue.
they're also deeper in the computer, in the social media, in Instagram, Facebook, whatever, all
Mm,
that. Meaning during those years they were falling behind, they were spending more and more of their time and
mm,
their life
Playing games.
became whatever you want to call it, the fucking computer, the
mm,
social media, that whole thing grew exponentially out of COVID. But like, oh, we have all this inflation since we got out of COVID. Well, didn't we shut down the whole economy like 100% for like months, right? That was something that was like unheard of. Like no one could even uh, quantify the effects of that. That had massive effect. Like that fucked things up big time. That
mm.
thing had been humming along no matter what happened in the world. And then all of a sudden, we just completely stopped everything for a few months. Now it's only a few years after that. Oh, on some graph in history, that's going to show to be like something like that cost us X amount per day, the world, the money, the system. And oh, there was a bunch of days where it was 100% shut down. But oh, there's a consequence to that, and we're living in it right now.
It was to get everybody to step in line and to start using the internet more to do your everyday things like shopping and to build up the delivery systems and the people to man them. It was
Give up
all
control
to
of your own life.
basically, step into this line, sheeple.
Yeah, and I'm sure that during that time, you can see a big percentage of like, oh, we took a huge percentage of cash spending out of the day-to-day thing and replaced it with cards and accounts and all this, because all this delivery, Uber, all that, yeah, having money doesn't get you any of that stuff. Okay. Right. You have to have it on in the system, in the card, in the bank, right? And
I love it
ultimately,
that way.
we're on a trajectory that, yep, one day, somewhere in the future here, the next administration or so is going to come out one day and say, yeah, that's it. Turn in all the money. We don't even, it's a cashless economy. We don't even have money anymore. Either you
And
get
pry
have
my
things or
pennies from
you
my cold
have,
dead hands. Kidding.
Yeah.
Too many pennies.
like that's the goal. Like it's not like slowly but surely cash is becoming less relevant, right? Real money.
I suppose it's true. Well, boys and girls, it's been a good show. Fun times. Maybe we'll wrap it up here in a couple of minutes and wrap it up at the 42 for a change. What do you think? Anybody want to have any announcements or final thoughts, or I don't know, sign off? Go for it, anybody.
Well,
I'll be the first one.
Here.
Go for it, North Star.
I'll say, thanks for having me on.
Yeah, man.
I enjoy coming on. Everyone have a good day. Give your loved ones a hug. Take charge of your life.
There you go.
Choose to be happy. Choose to be the bigger person and do the best thing for yourself and take care of everything and take care of your life and don't be fucking drugged down by all the BS in the background.
That's good advice.
Later.
Yeah, man. Cheers, North Star. Good to see you.
Yeah. Peace.
Go for it, Captain.
Well, it's glad to be back in Ohio. Home is home, I guess. And it's hot as shit, but it's a lot nicer than Thailand as far as that goes. I got sticker shock though shopping today and ended up thinking, oh, I was going to spend like $120. That bill turned into 210.
Oh yeah, now you're going to experience, because you haven't been back for a while. Now you're going to experience going to the grocery store and buying 3 things and spending $75 fucking for them. Yeah. Seriously, eggs now are fucking crazy. Everything.
Bot. The bot's done. You're not on that. No bot.
Yeah.
No, but exactly. I came back and it was items that were $316 are now $489, $499, and I'm like, holy cow. And then I look at the price of potatoes and the fruit, and I'm like, wow, you're selling green pineapples for that much money.
Yeah. Pineapples over here on the West Coast are about the same. They used to be about, I don't know, $4 or $5 depending on the store. Now they're still about $4 or $5. But you're right, like potatoes and onions and whatever are like literally twice as much as they used to be. You used to be able to find like an organic bag of potatoes, I don't know, 10 or 15 pound bag of potatoes for less than $10. Now an organic bag of potatoes for any amount of, I don't know, 10 pounds or something, easily over $10, 15, sometimes $20.
The grocery store is like crazy. Like certain items are like, holy shit. That's like the small bag of chips, and they want like $6.99 for it, or $5.99.
Oh my fucking God! I saw Philadelphia cream cheese. They still sell it for the same price at Costco, mind you. You can still go there and get the tub for $10, but at the store it's like $6 for the little Philadelphia. And I'm like, what are they talking about here? I'm not going to spend that much money for cream cheese.
There's items that like, oh, and they were always on sale, and oh, you could get a 12 pack of sodas for like
Yeah,
less than $4. Those are like $9.
yeah.
Like it's crazy.
Dude, seriously. You
But
just gotta fucking make
hey,
your own or something.
at least I had $5 in my pocket. I could still buy a gallon of chocolate milk.
There
So
you go. There you
everything's all right on that frontier. Everybody
go.
have a good one.
Yeah.
Peace.
Later,
Be
Catherine. Good to see
safe
you. Yeah,
and
man.
see you soon.
Sounds good. Go for it, bud.
All right. See you guys hopefully on Saturday with these takeover. Have a
Yeah,
good rest of the week.
good to see you, bud. Yeah, man.
Yeah.
Peace, bud.
Ladies and gerbils, that leaves the rest of us. Thanks very much for hanging. J5, Grant Widener, good to see you. He's saying Eagle for President. Dankabus Kynes in the show. Good to see you, Dankabus. Operation Annihilation. Who else in here? The best name in the chat. Al Telescope Uranus. Always makes me smile. CTC's in the house. Skunks. Nathaniel Chambers. Good to see you. We should smoke one of these days soon. Southern Vermont Vintage. Whoever I have not shouted out. Good to see everybody. Oh, I'll end this poll real quick before we leave. So the question was, what you growing outdoors? And for some reason, it's taken forever to give me. Oh, there we go. Losing vote is D's nuts. So only 16% of you are growing D's nuts. 19% of you are growing Yo Mama's Big Fat Badonk. Solid 19% of you also are growing simply weed, fam. And the winning option with 45% of you out of 31 votes is weed, tomatoes, cucumbers, and of course, some shit as well. So good to see everybody. Tiger in the house. Welcome. Don't forget, ladies and gentlemen, not only to visit North Star, but to my website, fumidoro.com. Go take a look at Sour Morgana or Lime River Rose or a gaffer tape. That's another one that I would really recommend as well. And until we meet again, my friends, be kind, be decent, be gentle, don't be fucking pricks, dicks, or lunatics. And of course, puff something wonderful. Until we meet again.